Ask and you shall receive. Pete Blackburn wanted a close and competitive Stanley Cup final, off to a good start in Game 1, even though the 5-2 score might not indicate that was the case. This is the Road to Stanley presented by Bally Sports. It's day 49 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Game 1 in the books. He's Pete Blackburn. I'm Frank Seravalli of dailyfaceoff.com. Pete, what was the story in Vegas for Game 1?
For me, it was seeing the light and the magic maybe disappear from the eyes of the Florida Panthers. Came into the Stanley Cup final, winners of 11 of 12. And we were talking about, this buzzsaw of a team. Was it beneficial for them to have so much time off? I think that we can probably say the answer is no at this point, and not to overreact. I know Paul Maurice said, everybody calm down, let's breathe. But if we were to overreact, and if I were to overreact, I would point out several reasons that would be causes for concern when you look at the Florida Panthers. You've got Sergei Bobrovsky, number one, not quite the goaltender, the high-end goaltender. Florida's net front coverage wasn't very good. There was a lot of screens and chaos in front of Bobrovsky. Blown coverage on that Marchessault goal, that was pretty terrible. So that was a little bit concerning. And then the Tkachuk line, not that effective. I mean, they had 57% of the possession, but they were outscored 1-0 going up against that fourth line most of their minutes. And then Florida was just more undisciplined, and they tried to get underneath the skin of the Golden Knights, and it didn't work. Once again, Nick Hague always seems to be at the center of attention as he's just laughing it off, letting it roll off his shoulders. So a lot of things that Florida had used to its advantage in the previous series kind of disappearing in Game 1.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing for me, I said it before the series even started, with this 10-day layoff and how unconscious Sergei Bobrovsky had played, would he turn into a pumpkin again at midnight in Vegas? And that's kind of what seemed like happened, tagged with 4 goals. You mentioned some of the chaos in front of him, and certainly some of them were screens, but just think of the Mark Stone goal, beaten from the slot cleanly. That's a save that Sergei Bobrovsky was making the last few rounds. That may be the difference. You were thinking, how does this guy continue on with this hot play? I just wasn't sure that it would be possible for the guy whose track record for not just the last few months heading into this playoffs, but the last few years was really suboptimal and subpar. To think that you could just continue that on, it really seemed like the Vegas Golden Knights punctured the aura of invincibility that had been surrounding Sergei Bobrovsky heading into this Stanley Cup final. Pete, who is your Stanley standout from Game 1? I'm
going to say Chandler Stevenson. Not only did he have an unbelievable primary assist on that Marchessault goal, but his line, the Stevenson-Stone-Howden line, they outscored the opponents 2-1. They had 8-1 advantage in scoring chances and an 87% expected goals rate from their time on the ice. So that line was pretty dominant. So Chandler Stevenson is my standout from Game 1.
I'm going to go with Adin Hill, the guy that just keeps putting up magical performances for the Golden Knights in net, pending unrestricted free agent, acquired way back right before the season started from the San Jose Sharks for a 4th-round pick. And this save is really one of the trademark moments potentially of this Stanley Cup final. I was in the same building, 2018 Stanley Cup final, Game 1, Braden Holtby makes a very similar save with the paddle of his stick that helped propel on the Washington Capitals to win their first Stanley Cup in franchise history. This is the first matchup since then when one of these two teams is going to win the Stanley Cup for the first time in franchise history. The connections are eerie. Also, Pete happened to be in the same exact crease as Braden Holtby made the save in the building.
Deja vu, but a good opportunity for deja vu. A real pillar moment for this Stanley Cup final. Good start in Game 1.
Good opportunity for the Florida Panthers to bounce back. Game 2, puck drops 8 p.m. Eastern on Monday night.